Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And unfortunately, we have made it to the end of one of the greatest entries in all of Star Wars lore and history. It is the final 3 episodes of the final season, season 2 of Andor. I am going to be one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined as always by my Star Wars buddy, Mark Jacobino. Mark, it's bittersweet, man. It's a bittersweet feeling.
It is really sad, but I love that we were able to do this, and I love what we're going to be able to talk about today.
Yeah, I am too. We for the people who might be joining us for the first time, if you are, welcome. But Mark and I, we've been covering Star Wars on the channel now for 2 years. And we unfortunately didn't get to review Andor Season 1 because it came out in 2022. The network launched in 2023. But every time we would talk about what we were talking about, we're like, we can't wait to get to Andor. We can't wait to get to Andor. And not only did we get to it, I mean, it's been 4 weeks. It just flew by. And now it's wrapped up. It's done. We have episodes 10, 11, and 12 to discuss today. All incredibly high-rated episodes on IMDb, coming off of the remarkable 3-episode arc we got last week, which I put up there. I said 2 of the episodes might be 2 of my absolute favorites of the entire series. And then we get these 3. So there is a lot to discuss, as you said. And I did take notes again.
Yes.
If you would like to, we could go episode by episode, or is there any bigger thoughts you want to discuss before we jump into kind of the episode by episode breakdown?
Yeah, this was my favorite arc of the second season, which I think a lot of people will be like, no, it's got to be the Gorman Massacre. But this arc just like hit me where it needed to. The Kleya and Luthen episode was my favorite episode of the season. I was blown away that they went that direction with that relationship, and the fact that it was just a shock. Like, I wasn't expecting that type of episode this late into the season, and we got it. So there was no preconceived like expectations, and then it hit like a freight train, and I loved it. And then they just landed the plane perfectly into Rogue One, and every character got a wrap up. Like, big characters and small characters. Like my guy Partagaz, he got a final scene.
Yeah.
And it was just like this. It felt like everything was planned right from the beginning, and that's what we were promised, and that's what was delivered. So
yeah, I think the biggest thing that I realized about this arc, and we talked about this at the end of last week, we were kind of like, we were excited, but we were hesitant because we're like, there's so much they have to do in 3 episodes, and how are they going to do this? And Tony Gilroy is very hesitant's not the right word, but he takes his time with the way that he delivers his storytelling, and he does it in a way where you're kind of hanging on to every single word. He throws you in as soon as this arc starts, and it has a different pace and a different momentum to me.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Than we've seen throughout the whole season. And I don't know if I like this arc more than last week's. It's tough. They're both so great. But that first episode is the one you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Episode 10. I would agree might have been my favorite episode. Definitely my favorite episode of the arc. Might be my favorite episode of the season. Again,
yes,
not too sure, but it is great. The biggest thing for me too, as someone who's a little bit less in the, still a fan of Star Wars, but not like a diehard like you. This is just what I want going forward all the time, and I hope that they could bring a central focus. That's the word I want to touch on, because it doesn't need to be this whole thing where it's like, oh man, like this is the perfect timeline, like this is the perfect story, like they've crafted it, they have the perfect storytellers. They need to just have a central focus with what they're doing. And weirdly, it's like after finishing this, it has my excitement back for Star Wars again, even though the next Star Wars thing we're going to jump into that is live action is most likely Ahsoka, right? Or I guess it's going to be Mando and Grogu.
Movie, yeah.
So we're touching on a whole different time and space in Star Wars. But the biggest thing is have a central focus, understand what you want to do with your characters, keep it simple, but also give it depth. That's what I want it to be going forward. If they could do that, then we're going to be good.
Preach. Amen.
Amen. Let's jump into Andor. Oh, man. All right. So the character, remind me of his name too. Lonni, right? Lonni.
Yep.
Lonni is the first character we see. opening up this arc, a unique way to kind of give us the severity of the situation, which we all know is coming. We are, I believe, a few months before the battle of Yavin, but it's they tell you it's like 1 year prior, but it just is taking place in that year leading up to that. But I think it really actually takes place just a couple of months before we get to where we get to. And shit hits the fan really quick. Obviously, he gives his detailed reporting, his research that he did, kind of backdooring his way into Dedra's intel and getting her. I believe is it called the Codec, or it's something like that? Her, whatever it is. He gets access to all her files. And he is the one that first discovers for the rebellion that there are plans for the Death Star. And he brings this to Luthen. And it's a scene that you feel the weight of it. Also because you know that he is finally at a point similar to where we saw Cassian last week, where he's like, I'm done. I want to go back to my family. I need to make sure that they're safe. I need you to get them there right now, and then I'm done. Like, I'm giving you the information you need. And it ultimately leads to Luthen getting the information and then killing Lonni, which you kind of have a feeling that was going to happen, maybe because of the stakes of what Luthen has put himself through. You know what I mean? Like, he is the one that has everything at stake, and he doesn't have a relationship with Lonni. He only has a relationship with Kleya, and we find that out through this episode. But that opening scene, that opening sequence with him, the little bit we get of Kleya and Lonni, how did you feel about getting thrown right into it and then leading us down this path that we were going to go on with episode 10?
Yeah. I mean, I would say like the central word here is like urgency. Like, this guy has crucial information. He's the only person outside of a select few in the Empire that knows this. And if he dies, then that information goes away and the Death Star happens and the rebellion is completely blindsided by it. So like you said, you feel that weight right away. And he calls on the secure line that right away, Kleya and Luthen look at each other like, oh shit, we got to go burn like something because something is going wrong. And that scene where they talk before the mission, one of my favorite lines from this season was Kleya's like, if it's not perfect, get out of there. And he's like, I think we've run out of perfect. And it was just like, because you kind of just understand that between them, this might be the end of the road. Like, they both kind of feel it. And there's a little bit of that tenderness that Luthen has for her that we really haven't seen before. And it kind of sets up the rest of the episode to explore that father-daughter relationship.
There's great editing in this episode.
So good. Yeah, the way they sequenced all of this was fantastic because it just builds up and builds. But yeah, Luthen and Stellan Skarsgård, again, fantastic performance. He looks at her and he's like, he says this line, move, which is a callback later on to a conversation that they had when they were younger. And he says it with like such tenderness, and you're just kind of like taken back because you hadn't seen Luthen speak that way before to someone. So when he says that, you kind of feel like a change in Luthen and a change in the episode. And then they kind of lock back in. She's like, tuck in your shirt. He's like, thanks. So I love that. And then, the Lonni scene, Lonni is the hero that Luthen wanted him to be. And he dies without anyone knowing his name. You know, the rebellion will never know that he was the one to bring it to them. Mm-hmm. They were even skeptical of Luthen. So it's just like such a tragedy that Lonni does die, and he did it for the good of the galaxy, because he could have like just went with the Empire. He could have just been like, Luthen's probably screwing me, I'll just stay with the Empire. But he still took those risks. Mm-hmm. And when he's like, we need to get my wife and child out of here, and Luthen's like, give me the information first, and then he dies. It's like, Jesus, Luthen.
Yeah, it's brutal, and it also puts at the showcase of all of it too that the mission is the most important thing, which is such a central focus of the show. It's remarkable that is really the core of what Andor is, while still giving us so many character moments throughout a 2-season arc where you feel for so many characters. And it goes into not a quick sidebar because we just recorded yesterday, me, Vinny, and Michael, about the future of the MCU. And we're like, well, you know, when they did that first, and that's 11 years. This has been 3 years that we've done this. But over 11 years, they really make you care about these characters till you get to a point where you have these emotional feelings towards the ending of this story. And we don't feel that same way about leading up to where they're going in the MCU now. They're able to do this, as we said last week, about a character that coming out of his Star Wars debut was probably the least talked about character out of the movie. Like, I know a lot of people were talking about Cassian.
Yeah.
So a lot of people talking about Jin. A lot of people talking about Saw Gerrera. A lot of people intrigued with Donnie Yen's character. Like, all of that, and then they decide to make the show, and there's so much great, rich backstory that still, at the end of the day, is playing a backseat to the core, which is the mission of, it is the rebellion as a whole going against the Empire, which I think is constantly being reminded across these final 3 episodes as well, and is reflected the best way that it could since the finale of season 1.
Yeah.
And they just do such a great job with showcasing that. And with this episode, Luthen and the flashback sequences. Now, it's some of the best de-aging I've seen that they've done. But just seeing where Luthen came from and how that relationship with Kleya formed, and even that first moment where he says that she's his daughter and she feels something that inherently feels wrong but at the same time feels right, is such a hard thing to balance, and they're able to do it so great with the writing. So talk to me about that relationship and seeing that play out in this episode.
Well, like we said, the way they structure this episode is so genius because it doesn't open with that. It only begins to unfold after she realizes what her mission is, and her mission is to go kill Luthen, because if the Empire gets information out of him, they'll be able to take down the rebellion. Mm-hmm. So it's only after that moment where we know that Kleya, who works with Luthen all the time, we're like, oh yeah, they're partners. Like, this is what a spy would do. She would have to take out the other spy. Only after that do we start unfolding, like, no, this isn't just a spy to her. This isn't just like someone looking out for the rebellion. This is someone that now has to kill someone who they look at as a father figure. And that's just that tension in the beginning of the episode, and then it just getting more, the tension building, but also the emotional weight building as the episode goes, and then it just crescendos in the end. I thought these last 3 episodes were kind of just going to be a victory lap for Andor and the show as a whole, but they just pull out this shocking episode that blew me away.
Well, because it's also so unconventional in the way that they did it, and I think that was the biggest shock for me watching it. Like, turning on that first episode last night of this arc, I was just so blown away with how big of a swing it was, because it is so unconventional in the way that it presents the story as it plays out. We're seeing that coming off of the fact that we know that he is trying to commit suicide, which is also crazy. And that scene we get before,
we have to talk about that.
Yeah, we will. But before we get into the flashback stuff, we have that great scene between Luthen and Dedra, and you come to find out in the later episodes too, like how that came to be is also amazing. Again, just great storytelling and true to the characters that Tony developed. Like, that is who Dedra was, and it makes sense. But going from that to then telling this heartfelt, emotional understanding of basically giving Kleya an origin story, a coming of age with Luthen, and seeing him at his lowest point where he feels like he needs to ask for forgiveness, and he finds this moment where he finds this little girl in hiding that feels the same way that he does, and they rely on each other. And it's such an interesting relationship that we've seen play out throughout the 2 seasons, but it's so much deeper, giving that context, which they didn't need to do.
No.
Like that, and that's why I think it's so significant. You know what I mean?
And now you can go back to season 1 and watch all of their interactions in a completely new light. You could be like, that's not like just 2 partners fighting. That's a father and a daughter fighting. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. Going backwards, because we didn't. So we get to the moment after he does tell her to go, Kleya, that he goes back to the museum,
antique shop.
Yeah. And he starts to burn the comms. And he realizes there is a ring at the door. He comes to the front of the shop. it's Dedra waiting there for him, and
Mouth
it's Dedra by herself,
jaw on the floor when that happened. I was like, no way.
So I was I said, oh no, out loud. But the way the scene plays out, man, where he does this, it's this great cat and mouse thing of what's fraudulent, what's not fraudulent. The antiquated intelligence of Luthen to grab a blade. He could grab anything in there, and he goes, "This is what I'm grabbing," to show her that it could be fake or it won't be fake. And he puts it in her hands, which is also, again, like the bravery and also the trust in himself, and knowing that he's been playing both sides for so long that he is willing to put a weapon in the hands of his enemy and leave it up to her to kind of decide what's going to happen next. It's just the way that they block it. It's the way that the writing is. It's the way the acting is. It's a fantastic scene, and when you get him turning away and he stabs himself, it's just it's like an all-time, like, this is so sad, but holy shit, hell yeah, Luthen.
Yeah.
Like, doing it for the sake of the rebellion. So talk to me about how that scene played out for you, setting the stage for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, just again with the ending, like he didn't make anyone else do anything that he wouldn't do himself. You know, all the things he asked of all these people, all the bad and good things that he did for all these people and characters, like he was also down for it. Like he would kill himself for this. So he wasn't just empty words. But yeah, the scene as a whole, again, we hadn't seen Dedra and Luthen in the same room yet, and it's one of those characters, that interaction that we've always wanted to see. And then when it starts to happen, obviously these are two heavyweight actors. They're absolutely destroying this scene. It's amazing. And then, yeah, like you said, they have the camera work of the slow press-ins of like Dedra thinking that she has him. Like Dedra is, and that's the reason she loses in the end. It's her ambition, her pride. Like she's like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to gloat. I'm going to be like, I found you, instead of going in with the whole crew. She's like, I got you. Like, you can't run away anymore. And when she says, you disgust me, and then Luthen's like, you're too late. Like, the rebellion's already started. It already flew away. There's a lot more of the galaxy that you're going to be disgusted with now. I was like, just like a haymaker right back to her.
Yeah.
And then the imagery of just both the knife being like, is this real? Is this fake? But then also bringing back the Starpath unit that started this whole story in the first season, of her being like, look how rusty and old and useless this is, and like now, and you know, her thinking that that's Luthen, and then Luthen handing her a knife and being like, is this real? Is it not? Am I real? Am I not? Like, all of it is just like, perfect.
And all of it is to also just continuously get the Empire off their trail. Like, they're always steps ahead, the rebellion, which it just kind of goes into the intelligence. And when you see how Luthen strategizes this whole entire thing, and where we eventually get to a point in episode, I believe it's episode 11, or is it 12, where Cassian has the conversation with the group.
Ooh, I think it's 12, yeah, because that's when they get back.
Yeah, and when he gets to that point in kind of laying out for all of them the importance of, like, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this person. I understand that you guys might not like his methods. I understand that you guys probably didn't know him, and you have a feeling and a thought process that you think he is the reason that they're getting onto us. He goes, we don't even get the information on the Death Star if it isn't for Luthen, and it isn't for this mission that he plotted out by himself with him and Kleya years before that. Literally spending decades going about this plan and starting it from scratch because of the way that he feels about the way that innocent people are being treated. It's so rich. It's so deep. And that just sets the stage for the episode.
Right.
That's like the first, like, in what's like, what, a 55-minute episode. That's the first 25 minutes
maybe
of the episode.
Maybe less, yeah.
Eventually, Luthen is on life support. Dedra brings in a medical unit to try to save him from bleeding out. And Kleya has to go on this mission, which is also so good. She has to go on this mission, sneaking into the hospital, dressing as a nurse, and getting to his care unit and pulling the plug on his life. Before we get to that point, Dedra gets arrested. Partagaz sends for that to happen, setting up the confrontation she has in episode 11 with Krennic. but throughout that, we're still getting the intercuts of the flashbacks and things like that. And one of the most putting things in perspective for Kleya in the flashback is you first see when they're going on their journey, they're selling artifacts, same thing, kind of faking on a lot of the things that they have. And she sees someone her age that looks like it could be someone that she knew, a friend, at, again, like age 10, age 11, being murdered in cold blood by the Empire. That scene to me was another one where it was like, she's going to grow up really quick. Was that something that stood out to you in the episode as well? Like in terms of the flashbacks, we get that, and then we jump to, after that, we get her being the one to decide if they're gonna explode a bridge.
Yeah,
as a distraction.
Yeah. The child actor who plays Kleya was fantastic in this episode. I mean, going toe to toe with Stellan Skarsgard, that's like no easy feat.
Yeah.
Like, come on now. No. Again, that was that scene I was talking about before, where we get reintroduced to that word "move." She's like angry. She's like, we have to do something right now, and he's like, you need to slow down. Like, take all that anger you have right now, build it up, and we're gonna keep losing until we win. So just store it, and when I tell you to move, we move. And again, he says the word move, and it calls back to that first scene where you heard that word, and you have that context now, and it just hits that much more. So and then we get the bridge flashback where it's a parallel of like current time and then flashback, because she has the bomb now, and then there's a bomb in the flashback. And it felt like in that scene, I don't know if this is how you took it, but it felt like Luthen was hesitant about this path that he set her on. He's like, if you're serious about this, here's the trigger. It has to be your choice, though. I can't tell you to do this. And like when she reaches for it really quickly, he's like, okay, maybe. Like, I think he regrets it in that moment. And then he puts the trigger himself. He's like, don't look. Okay, look now. It was almost like I don't know. Did you feel like he was regretting it in that moment?
I don't think it was a regret thing, but I think it was him also putting himself, being present in the moment and realizing that he is about to allow a child to do something that is above that she's a kid at the same time. I think that, I think he did it as a test, I think, to see how far they've come, because we don't really have a perception of how long since they had met that they had been doing that. You could tell by the way she's dressed and what they're doing that they had spent at least a good amount of time together up to that point before she wants to trigger that first explosion in her life. I saw it more as Luthen trying not to get the blood on her hands and her feeling that to make her not, because I do think the other thing is, as we've talked about, the relationship of Kleya and Luthen, she has to be a certain way because of the way she was raised by Luthen. There is still the tenderness because of her trying this and starting this as a child that she had as a character. And I thought that the performance by Elizabeth Dulau was really tremendous throughout the season. Like, she got kind of a big, like, she was important obviously in season 1, but she got a spotlight, especially in this final arc in this series and in this season. And so for me, it was more of like Luthen still trying to keep that bit of tenderness in her to also hold him accountable, but also be like, you're too young to have blood on your hands. Like, I want you to experience this, because she is shocked when she does finally see the impact that a literal explosion will take out hundreds of people. And then he goes, now it's time for us to go. I think that it was just that moment where he was kind of putting himself back into the shoes of a young girl and being like, maybe this is a little bit too much at this point. So you know what? It's good that you're ready for this, but at the same time, I'll be the one to hit the button this time.
Yeah. I think the show has just really emphasized this theme of choice, like making choices. And I think he looked at her and said, if you want to be a part of this has to be your choice. So I think when he saw her reach for it, he's like, okay, she made her choice, but like you said, maybe a little too soon to really dive in. So yeah, again, just being circular in all the themes and bringing it all together. And then we jump back to the hospital, and she triggers the bombs on the ships in the hangar, and all the Imperials leave. She takes out 2 more guys with her little pistol, and then we get the scene where she's in the room. She turns the shades, and so she's alone with her dad, and it's just like, oof.
Yeah, it's a heavy scene. Gives him a final kiss goodbye.
Yep.
And takes him off a ventilator, and you get that moment of him like kind of stirring, like, because he has nothing going to his system anymore. And it's an incredibly well done scene. It's an incredibly well done episode. The craziest thing that it's such a little thing, but again, the way that they're able to just kind of present the show in such a great way. We even get like a moment of comedy in this episode with the young grandmother.
Yeah.
Or not the young grandmother, the alien grandmother. Where like this is in the middle of what we know is going to be one of the most emotional moments we've seen in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And they still like Tony is still able to interweave a really like funny like comedic moment
organically. Like, it wasn't like slapstick. It wasn't like Marvel forced humor. It was just like, this is like fun. Like it makes sense in this context.
Yes. Yeah. A fantastic episode. One of the best of the season. One of the best of the series.
Yes.
Kicking off our arc, and then we have 2 more after this. So the big thing for episode 11 for me is Dedra. Obviously,
yep.
It's this, and I believe the episode opens with her being in the room. Correct. It opens with Krennic being outside the room, turning off the cameras so that nobody can, and all the comms and everything. So it's just him and her alone.
Yeah.
In this room, kind of alluding to an assault potentially taking place, like a physical assault, but also because he wants to feel that power of knowing it's just going to be me and her in this room, and I know that I can intimidate her. Ben Mendelsohn, great actor. I think the first thing I saw him in was a series. We might have talked about this previously, but a show called Bloodline on Netflix. He immediately grabbed my attention when I saw him in that show. And I liked him a good amount in Rogue One. I wish he had more to do, but in this show, he does even more with even less. And this scene is his standout scene of the season, and just the intimidation that he's able to present onto Dedra to me, just from putting his pointer finger on the top of her head, is crazy. So remarkable, perfect example of what the Empire could be at its worst, and going after one of their finest, who was actually trying throughout 2 whole seasons of the series to do anything and everything for the sake of the Empire, and they still throw her to the side. That opening for you, how did it feel?
Amazing. Very much a parallel to the scene where she was first interrogating Cyril. Same room, same kind of shark in the water, walking around him, intimidating him. Only this time, obviously, Krennic lays his hands on her. So I love the way it's shot. It's everything below his eyes. You don't see his eyes until he kind of stalks into frame. Like you said, the pointer finger was just like peak disrespect. I was like, oh my gosh. And with Dedra's character, I mean, she's someone who we've learned a lot about this season, about her past, about how she lost her parents when she was young. They abandoned her. She went to like Imperial daycare, and that's how she grew up. She grew up unloved. And you just see her break down because, like you said, she's doing everything she can and she's still being punished. And it's almost this great look into the character of saying, there's this scared little girl in there that's just looking for approval and is looking for people to accept her, and they're not. And she's trying her best, and that's why she's so ambitious. She's like, look, like, I'm doing all these good things for you. Why are you still not accepting me? And it makes you feel bad for her. Again, Dedra has done terrible things and probably would continue to do terrible things under the Empire, but you can't help but not feel bad for her knowing all of the things working against her. And yeah, Denise, she's just incredible.
She is great. I think so. One of the things I love about this is because it's such a simple concept that it's one that anybody and everybody could understand in this day and age. But when Krennic is discussing with her how she accidentally had files sent to her, it's like, oh yeah, everybody's been CC'd on a bad email that wasn't supposed to be sent to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's been through that, and it's something as simple as that not only was Dedra receiving information and intel that she wasn't supposed to, she took the time and made it a point to look at specific information, withhold it, not tell anybody about it, and then ultimately the biggest part of the reason why this all unfolds is because she's still making mistakes, and it's justified. Like you're talking about, she wants attention. What Palpatine has kind of instilled in the Empire at this point too, is that like do things to get attention and you'll be rewarded. And this is what Dedra's been trying to do for 2 seasons now, is trying to be the one to ultimately be the hero, not only because of her past, but also, I mean, she's a woman in the Empire. Like you don't see that very often across the media that we've seen. So getting to that point and being like ultimately realizing and finding out that she wanted to be the one to go get Luthen by herself, and she's not smart enough to outwit him, and Krennic is furious about it. It just plays so well because it's like you understand every side of it, you know, like it's something where like you were talking about, it's not that you feel sympathetic necessarily for her, but at the same time you're like, I understand why she made the choices that she made, and like you said, she's still getting punished for all of it, so she's not going to get a happy ending. Like that's it for Dedra.
No,
like
she does not.
I was actually kind of surprised that she gives the information to the new commanding officer. Were you surprised by that?
I was too. Yeah, she kind of got this Hannibal Lecter scene where she's kind of behind the glass wall and he asks for advice. But yeah, it was this old assistant. We saw them have like this nice camaraderie in the first season trying to solve the Andor problem. And then we just see the Empire eating itself, you know, in every form. Like he is the one that arrests her. Like he's so quick to take her out, to step up. The leak of the Death Star plans comes from inside the Empire, from the ISB. The ISB is literally the ones that are supposed to be the ones preventing that from happening, and the leak came from them. Yeah. It calls back to Nemec's speech where he's like, oppression is hard, you know, tyranny is difficult because it requires constant effort, and any little slip-ups can cause these breaks in the dam, and it's all just coming full circle. Like they messed up this little thing and now it's turned into a whole
crazy
issue.
Ripple effect. Yeah, it's that. So then we get to following Kleya's having to kill Luthen. Yep. She escapes to, do you know the name of the place that they've shown it now a few times?
It's like their safe season. House on Coruscant.
It's in Coruscant. So she's still on Coruscant. She escapes to this place where we've seen Luthen there. He has a conversation with Bix about it. Bix and Cassie were living there for a while. And it's a really interesting central location that has so much more character in it than you would think. And it's like now like that image of that safe house will be with me forever in Star Wars, you know, that they're able to craft something like that. But she has to find this old sort of it's basically like a Morse code system essentially. Yeah. And she's delivering a message to Yavin, to Wil, and Will's actually not even there to receive the message. It's his girlfriend, forgetting her name at the time, but we meet her in the last arc on Gorman, and they wind up living. And she's like, this has been going off. It woke me up from a sleep. Like, I don't, and he's freaking out because he's like, when did you get this message? She's like, maybe like half an hour ago. And then you're like, oh my God, like she is by herself now and she needs to be saved. And we need to, like, the Empire's on her tail. Like you start to see that kind of unfold as the episode goes along, as you're getting information from one to another, to another, to another. At like kind of what it is, again, interesting. It's like the Empire's going at a snail's pace, but the urgency of the rebellion is like, we need to do this now. We need to go now. And it's how shows the resourcefulness of them. So I want to talk to you about that too. The way it's presented, especially in this last arc and in the show, of the rebellion versus the Empire and how they're able to craft that. Is it the best that it's ever been done in Star Wars? Because to me, you really feel, and again, George Lucas crafted it. I understand that. But it's like, since the original trilogy, I feel like you haven't felt that with the difference in showcasing why they are who they are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, definitely from a Rebellion versus Empire standpoint, no doubt. Like, Andor has definitely done it the best. You know, Rebels, the animated TV show, did a lot of great things, but it was always the Rebels winning. It was always the preconceived, like, you went into it knowing, like, the Rebels win. The Empire, you know, they brought Thrawn into the show, and he was intimidating, but at the end of the day, like, the Rebels never felt like they were out. Here, you feel that chess match a lot more. And then even in the original trilogy, it's really not a chess match. It's like the first one, they get lucky. Second one is more focused on the characters and less about the world, like the struggle. Of course, it starts with the Battle of Hoth, but it's really like the rebels are losing, like, and the heroes are on their own kind of paths for discovery. And then the end is just the final battle. We don't really get that like interplaying of the spy thriller and the politics of all that. So, yeah, I mean, Andor definitely.
It's awesome. So she sends out the message. We eventually get to Wil takes the machine that he has. He runs it over to Cassian's place. I love the re-intro we get to K2SO playing some sort of poker game with Cassian and Melshi, and the comedy that plays into that. And you start to see now the relationship that is forming between Cassian and K2. You've been a big proponent of like, when are we getting K2? When are we getting K2? This is his standout arc, obviously. The intro, how did you feel they handled Alan Tudyk kind of coming back to the character and handling it within the last arc?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, he fit right back in. He's like this like nervous child that's like a big brute, and he plays it perfectly. I love how he like keeps bringing the cards closer to him every time. They're like, "Oh, he's looking nervous." He's like, "That's not even possible. I can't be nervous." Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, you haven't done this before." He's like, "Well, statistically, we played this many times. I should be able to win this." It was great. Again, like inserting comedy in a very organic way, into very dark content.
And it was nice to see Cassian kind of have a little bit of levity for the first time. I know,
right? Yeah, laughing, having some fun.
Diego's great, man. I think that's another thing, and we can get to a bigger discussion about it when we wrap up the episodes. But like, this is a character now that is one of my favorite in Star Wars, and I didn't think we'd get here. You know what I mean?
Nobody did.
I'm just. He's remarkable. Diego's great, and obviously his stamp is so on the show as an executive producer, and he feels such a deep love for this character that, not to say that it didn't exist when he did Rogue One, but you could just kind of tell that the partnership between him and Tony is a rich one, and it worked out really great for everybody. But after we get that scene, we're kind of having the hunt of the Empire getting to Kleya, and then Cassian, Melshi, and K2 decide to go get her. This is an episode where still a lot happens, but I feel like it happens in quicker succession. Is there anything that I forgot in this episode that is a standout to you?
That's just that like Cassian is working outside the codes of the rebellion, you know, the Draven. I don't know if he's general or not, but you know, Draven, the guy who's kind of in charge of the flight deck, is like, you can't keep doing this. Like, you know, you have to follow the rules, and that comes back around in the next episode, which we'll talk about, where, you know, there's a big blowout between Cassian and the heads of the rebellion at that point. So no, I don't think you missed anything. It's really great to see these like scenes where these characters feel so isolated. You know, the Gorman massacre, they're sending out that message like, help, we're getting murdered, we need help, we know no one's going to come. And then you have Kleya, who's in this empty safe house on Coruscant, surrounded on all sides. She knows she's being hunted, and she's like, please help, knowing that Yavin is not the biggest fan of Luthen and what they're doing on Coruscant. So she's probably also in the back of her head like, I don't know if anyone's ever going to come. So it's just, again, that isolation is palpable by the end of this episode.
Yeah, for sure. So that takes us directly into the series and season 2 finale of the show.
Wait, do Cassian and them get to Coruscant in episode 11 and have like the fight with the ISB?
They get there in the beginning of episode 12.
Okay.
That takes us directly into episode 12.
Yeah.
I would say probably my second favorite of the arc, but it's close between the first one because it really does have such a great wrap up. But Cassian, Melshi, K2, they all get there. She does not want to go to Yavin. Mm-hmm. She is like fully like, no, I like, how do you know this is gonna be? I don't want to go. Like, you know what the plan is now. Like, it's almost like she's kind of giving in to herself. Like, she's willing to just, again, like, her father's gone, she'll kill herself. He's like, I'm not leaving without you. It also plays into his tendencies of like, he needs to be around people at this point. He needs that camaraderie. He needs comfortability. He's lost so many people as it is. Bix leaving him, abandoning him while he's sleeping, because she knows for the greater good and what it means for his path. But he is like, no, I'm not leaving you. Like, you're coming with us. And you see it kind of play out as well later in the episode, where it's like, I love that he kind of gets a final wrap up with Vel, and shows like that original crew, and they have that nice tender moment of like the tribute to every single person that they've lost along the way. Again, doesn't take up too much screen time, doesn't need to be melodramatic. It's feels authentic and it feels real. But the rescue on Coruscant and the fight that we get essentially, or the Empire kind of going up and K2 playing such a big role. Let's talk about that. For you, again, so many great sequences in this season in terms of like the espionage and a lot of rescue missions, especially across the last like 6 episodes. But getting it the different side of it, showcasing the power of K2 going against the Empire. How did it play for you?
It played well because I was scared for Kleya because we don't know if she makes it out or not. And she has this information and she already gives it to Cassian. So at that point, we think as the audience, like, well, Cassian has it now and we know where we go in Rogue One. So Kleya might not make it. Like, she's already passed along the message. So as this sequence is happening, I'm like, please, like, I want Kleya to make it out. And then the concussion grenade goes off and she gets knocked out. And I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen to Kleya? You get the sequence of K2 kind of just being a brute, like he takes out all the forces, all the Imperial forces outside, and then inside we get this like horror scene where he's like bashing people into walls. He's using the one guy as a human shield. I'm like, geez,
dude, that was one of the more brutal, if not the most brutal scene I've ever seen in Star Wars. Like using,
I mean, the Gorman Massacre
was brutal, but like
this was personal.
I was gonna say, not only is it personal, but it's like we're talking about like an up close, and it's like there's no regard. Well, yeah, I guess the same thing with the K2 units in the Gorman Massacre, but like the fact that this dude is like, again, for people that are video game fans, just reminds me of like meat shields and like Gears of War. That's like literally what I was seeing, and the way they showcase, like he gets shot like 4 times, and he's just like, I'm like, oh my god, this is brutal. And I just thought it was great. The way that they kind of have the flashbang, I thought added a lot of tension to that scene as well, and being like, holy shit, like, and again, you know they're gonna make it out, but it's like, oh man, like they're pretty messed up here. Like you said, is Kleya gonna be able to make it out of here? Is it gonna be for nothing? Are they gonna go all the way there and Cassian's gonna feel awful that this girl died because of him? So it's a great rescue scene. And then that takes us, I believe, into our last Saw Gerrera scene.
Yeah. The last thing I want to mention about Coruscant is the reason they get away is because of all the measures that the Empire took to locate them. Yeah. Again, it's like the Empire messing up its own operations.
Trying to be uniform when the rebellion is always going against the rules.
Well, we get Partagaz and Krennic talking, and they're like, how are we going to find this girl? And Partagaz is like, oh, put out like this message that she has this rare infectious disease to all the people in the area.
Nobody can go around her, yeah.
And then that whole lockdown is the reason they can't find Cassian and them when they leave. Like, they make a one-off comment like, why can't we get them? It's like, oh, well, there's this
all the other units are going to...
There's this disease order, and again, it's just like, it's like perfect, like no line is wasted. Everything has a lead up. And then the Partagaz and Krennic scene, just to like quickly touch on it, you see the tension from both of them. Like, we're very close to messing up. Like, the leak is out there on the ISB side, and then Krennic is like, if the Death Star plans get out, like that's going to come back on me because I'm supposed to be the one leading it. So they both kind of have like a moment where they see each other at the end. They're like, good luck, buddy.
But it also is that moment of like, you see the friendship there too, like the years that they've been working together, where he's like, I don't think I'll be able to protect you, and you kind of feel it in the acting. You're like, he wants to be able to protect this person. This is his number one trustee. Like, this is who he trusts. And Partagaz is like, yeah, I mean, I guess what are we gonna do? This is it. It's again such great acting throughout the whole time, but. We get our last scene with Saw. Mon Mothma's trying to help bring him in. It's Mothma, Bail, and Draven all trying to kind of be like, we want to help you. We're sending you a warning. He's like, you don't give a shit about me. Essentially, like in different terms, obviously. But one of the things I brought up, and we talked about it, I think through 2 arcs now. We didn't get a Saw and Luthen second thing.
Yeah.
Maybe the only thing that I'm upset about with this season is we don't get that. But we do get this little scene. Did it scratch the itch for you a little bit, or were you still like, man, I wish we got more Saw?
I think this was fine. I actually wasn't expecting to really see anything for Saw. Really, what this scene did for me was just set up why he's on Jeddah in Rogue One, and how he gets the Imperial pilot. He's been shooting down like drop ships, and they're like, you need to stop doing that. Like there's a Star Destroyer above you. Like they're gonna start killing you like really quickly. You need to stop. And he doesn't listen. At that point, he's gone. He's off the rails. I mean, again, he's huffing the gas, like literally, like he needs to live off it. And he's like full anarchy mode, and he's just held up in this ancient city where all this kyber is stored, and the kyber is what the Empire needs for the Death Star. So yeah, it felt more like a setup for Rogue One and less of like a send off for Saw.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We also do get that scene that I brought up, which I loved, where Cassian kind of, when he does get back to Yavin, and he has the conversation with that whole I guess you could say like the Rebellion Senate. It's like the kind of the leaders, the council of the people that are running this, and you get the different Mon Mothma look, you get the shorter hair, you get the icon. But I thought that scene played so well because it also stands again on the back of what they've built and what Luthen did. I love when he barks back at the woman, and he's like, "Did you know who he was?" And she's like so quiet immediately because it's like, who are you to talk about this person that you've never met in your life? That literally is the reason that we're doing what we're doing. So I thought that scene played really well. And then we get Bail Organa giving him his blessing to do what he needs to do. And I don't know if there's any particular quotes that stand out to you or anything in that, or the way that all kind of plays out. We talked a little bit about the tribute that Vel and him have. But it really just kind of directly leads us into Rogue One, knowing that he has to go on this mission and he has to do what he has to do. He gets the clearance to fly. We do get a nice moment as well, which I was surprised we got with the Force Healer, where he's kind of looking off, and she like kind of gives him a look, and he's like, okay, like you were right. I get it. I'm the one now. Like this is the way it's got to be. Before leading into the final scene, but playing out the rest of the final episode, anything that stood out to you in particular you wanted to talk about?
The Partagaz.
Partagaz. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Where we hear Nemik's manifesto again, and we're like, oh, okay, we're kind of wrapping up the season, and it's Partagaz listening to it, and he's just dumbfounded, like, how is this working? Like, he's worked his whole life to stop this disease from spreading. He always talks about diseases. I love this through line for his character, and he's listening to Nemik's manifesto, and all these dominoes are starting to fall, and he's just like, how did this happen? How did it get out? And the guy's like, we need to take you downstairs, and he's like, okay, well, give me 1 second, I need to collect my thoughts. And I'm like, my boy's going down. He's gonna kill himself. And it's a great scene. You don't see him do it, you just hear it,
and his friend telling the troopers, just give him. I was just like, oh my god, like no character goes without a proper ending in the show, no matter how small, how big. Like everyone got a proper ending, even Partagaz, someone that like I love, but I didn't really think other people really like got invested in. But Tony, he's like, no, he needs an ending. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a great scene. It's a great send off. Not great, I guess, but it is what it is for his character. And so wrapping all that up, the last thing we get is something that I brought up off screen before we started recording. That gives us, you knew they'd figure out a way to do it, because Tony was like, this is going to lead directly into Rogue One, but they needed to have some sort of loose end, something that could potentially lead to something else. And we see Bix on the farm planet that she was in the first arc, with child. How was that? How did that play for you?
It was nice, like, emotional, like, manipulation, you know what I mean? But it feels earned. Like there was like a part of me that was like, she's probably like pregnant, like at the end of the last arc, like that would make so much sense. And I mean, it was just like I was so caught up in all the other emotions of the previous scene that when we hit that, I'm just like, of course. And this will make Rogue One again, like, this child will never know his father. His Bix will tell him about who his father was, and when the rebellion wins, she's gonna be like, this is all because of your dad. And that's just nice to have in the back of your head as you're watching.
Now, apologies if this is a stupid question, but this is also something I think about. We never get confirmation or see anything with Cassian's sister knowing where she is. Correct? Like we don't know that she's dead or alive. We just know that she's not there across this 2-season arc. Is there a future with that? Is there a future where, following the ending of what we know as Cassian's life at the end of Rogue One, because I feel like you do you think they don't bring back Bix at all?
I don't think they. No, I don't think they do anything with this. No.
Okay, you don't think they do anything even with the fact that Cassian as a kid, like, and they said it years later?
No, I don't think so.
Interesting. I disagree, but I think that's just because it's Disney.
It's Disney. I hear you, but without Tony, and to be completely honest, the viewership of this show compared to other stuff isn't as large as it would be to say, oh, we should do a show about Cassian's kid.
Yeah.
I just don't see that happening.
Do you think we get Cassian's kid in a future movie?
I don't think we see these people ever again.
Okay.
No. I think Tony has closed the chapter on this, and I think Disney is happy to. Well, Disney's happy to let that chapter end, I think.
Okay. Last thing before we get into scores. I brought it up before, but I really want to hear your thoughts on it. Cassian Andor is a character. Again, you're a diehard Star Wars fan. You know more characters than I do. You've had experiences through animation that I haven't had. Cassian coming into the show compared to now, where his character is at the end of this series and what his character means for Star Wars at large. I'd love to hear you go on a little bit of a rant, or just kind of how you feel about the way that was played out, and how much the character means to you now compared to going into the show.
Yeah, Rogue One, he was my favorite character in Rogue One. You could listen to my podcast from 2022 when I said, like, why are they doing a Cassian Andor show? Like, why follow this character? And now, 4 years later, I never would have predicted that he would be this just icon to a degree of Star Wars. And I think I'm more so connected to the idea that he represents of the show Andor, and less of maybe him. I think he's fantastic. And after now seeing this and wanting to rewatch Rogue One, and I'll probably see it in a whole new way, and he might bump up on my characters ranking list. But I think the idea of the show of Andor is so central to him that when I see him, I associate it with the beauty and the masterpiece that is the Andor show. And I think that's my biggest connection to him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's well said. Yeah, man, it's been great to go on the journey of the show. It's been great to watch this season. It's been great to cover it with you week to week. Now we have to do the part that I know you dislike a lot, but we have to give a score.
I do it for you, Darian.
It's the end of the season, at the end of the series. We don't usually give like full series scores. I will just say I'm going to give the series a 10. I think it's, like I said, it's probably my favorite thing in Star Wars ever besides Empire Strikes Back. It's probably it's hard because Revenge of the Sith was like my intro to Star Wars, which I know is a very interesting and unique way for my Star Wars story, and I do love Revenge of the Sith, but it's just like looking at this now as a 29-year-old who also studied filmmaking and understands the process of making a show this big, while also focusing so much on the characters and making you feel for almost every single one of them. The series as a whole is a 10. Season 2, I'll start because I know you don't love to do this. I'm going to give it a 9.5. It's very close to perfect for me. I'm excited to go back and watch all of season 1, then rewatch season 2 and go right into Rogue One. I know you had said previously you think season 1, but this is before we got the last arc, you thought season 1 was better than season 2. It's hard because, again, the recency bias. I think there are bigger moments in season 2, but what they're able to do with season 1, I think, was an even bigger feat. And that's why I think I might have, like, if I go back, it's like maybe season 1 is a 10, season 2 is a 9.5. But I'm going to give it a 9.5 for season 2. I absolutely love this show. And I hope that it has an impact on Star Wars in the future in the way that they understand the recognition, the critical reception, and the clamor on the internet. I mean, dude, like, Twitter this whole day has just been like, Andor is the greatest. I love Andor. Oh my God. And this is people that are not Star Wars fans either. You know what I mean? Like, people that just really care about the story and what Tony was able to do with it. So it's a credit to the whole entire team. I love this show. And yeah, so 9.5 is my score for season 2. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I'm not on Twitter anymore because that's just a cesspool, but I'm glad that that's the overwhelming sentiment. I hope Disney's watching it. This is the quality that we should expect from Star Wars moving forward, especially with these budgets. And it doesn't need to be this grim. It doesn't need to be this dark. Everything, we could still have that whimsical Star Wars, but there needs to be this level of effort and care put into it moving forward. So yeah, season 1 is a 10 for me. I think that's a perfect season of television. Season 2, I think there's some disjointedness just because of the year time skips. I think, the second arc here is a lot of setup, whereas in season 1, that second arc is one of the best arcs of the series. And so I just feel like the payoffs at the end of the season are fantastic, but maybe the build-up wasn't as strong as season 1. So I'd say season 2 for me is a 9. Season 1's a 10. Overall, the series is a 10, which makes no sense, but it is.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. The series as a whole is a 10, but I'd give season 2 a 9. I'm so glad this exists. It makes me proud to be a Star Wars fan. I hope people are watching this. I hope more people watch Andor because we need to talk with our eyes and our wallets, and we need to say to Disney, like, this is what we want, and hopefully they listen. But yeah, to everyone who worked on Andor, Tony, writing team, actors, cast, crew, set designers, no notes. Incredible stuff.
So great. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this final arc as much as we did, and you've enjoyed this series and this season as much as we have. But please let us know in the comments, what are your guys' overall thoughts on season 2 of Andor and the series overall. We'd love to have conversation with you guys in the comments about some of your favorite moments, emotional moments. I know Mark texted me and was like, dude, I was a mess after the show ended. And there were moments I teared up when we get when the plug is pulled on Luthen. I mean, there's a lot of emotional beats in this season for sure. So we'd love to hear your guys' comments. Give this video a like if you guys can, and subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. And Mark, my buddy over here, he also has his own YouTube channel that is strictly devoted to Star Wars. So I want to give him the floor to talk about where you guys can find all that stuff. So Mark, go right ahead.
Thanks, Darian. Yeah, so Star Wars Mark of Balance on YouTube. I go a little bit deeper into the Star Wars lore of things. We keep it a little more casual here, but would love to have you over there. My review for this will be coming out as well. So watch this and then go over there and watch that, or watch that and then come over here and watch this, whatever you want to do. But yeah, would love to see you over there. Thanks.
And thank you, Mark, for being on here week to week with us discussing Star Wars stuff. The next Star Wars thing we're probably going to be covering is not till October. There's a big gap in the Star Wars schedule. It's going to be Visions Volume 3. It is correct? Yep. Yeah, so Visions Volume 3 we'll be talking about on here. And then after that, we got to wait till Mandalorian and Grogu, I believe. So yeah, big gaps in the Star Wars world. But Mark is also on here currently covering some other stuff with us, wrapping up our coverage of The Last of Us on HBO, so you guys could check out that stuff if you guys want as well. We have reviews up for Thunderbolts, for Sinners, for The Surfer, which Zach and Sean just did. We have reviews upcoming for Hurry Up Tomorrow. And be doing Love, Death, and Robots. There's a ton of stuff for you guys to check out on the channel. And you guys could also follow us on social media if you guys could do that. It's all below me in the video. It's also in our YouTube description. We have news stuff that we post as well as clip outs for our longer podcast. If you guys don't have the time to watch it right away, you guys can get a sense of what we're talking about and then jump into the full episode later. So thank you guys for joining us week to week for the last 4 weeks of Andor. It's bittersweet. Like I said,
it's been an honor. It's been an honor.
Signing off, but just signing off. I am Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Mark Alcabino.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.